Welcome to the Banff World Media Festival. Your session is about to begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Robert Montgomery. We have a very special treat for you this afternoon. We have our Peter Ustinov Award winner interview. And to conduct the interview, I'd like to introduce you to Michael Schneider, who is the Los Angeles Bureau Chief of TV Guide magazine. Over to you, Michael.
All right. Okay. Thanks, everyone. This is a real treat. You probably best know Craig Ferguson as the drummer of the classic Scottish punk powerhouse bands like Exposure and Dream Boys. Somehow, 30 years later, he's earned a Peabody Award. So a lot of stuff's happened between then and now. But to start things off, he's got a special message for all of Canada. Got a clip that we're going to show to begin things.
Gentlemen, please state your names and where you're from.
Travis from Red Deer, Alberta, Canada.
Josh from Red Deer, Alberta, Canada.
I see. Have you ever met before this evening?
Yes. Good.
Canadians, eh? They never stop chattering. We're greeted at Ottawa Airport today by thousands of hysterical Canadians. And by hysterical, I mean they all nodded politely. And they apologised for nodding. And enjoyed a tasty treat. Dear Craig and Jeff, how come you never have any Canadian guests on your show? I have Canadians on here all the time.
Yeah.
Shatner was here last week.
Yeah, how we did Bill? How we been doing?
Yeah. Who are the guests tonight? Let's see, Ellen Page. Oh, Canadian!
Yeah.
George Stromboli. Canadian!
Yeah.
Two Canadians tonight! Plus an email from Canada, plus Secretariat is half Canadian, back half. If you've never been to Canada, you should go immediately. It's awesome. Go there quickly before they run out of bacon. You can eat as much bacon as you can, then you get your arteries unclogged with the free healthcare. Tonight, on the Late Late Show, we look at a disturbing trend. All of these people, and I mean it, all of these people here that are in the studio audience tonight are Canadian. Which begs the question, who's left in Canada? Canada. It's fantastic.
So after he started the BBC series The Ferguson Theory, he moved to LA in 1994. First job starred opposite Betty White and Marie Osmond in the sitcom Maybe This Time. He then, of course, earned fame and fortune as one of the stars of The Drew Carey Show. He went on and wrote a bunch of feature films like The Big Tease and Saving Grace. He's voiced tons of animated characters in movies like Brave and Winnie the Pooh and How to Train Your Dragon. He's written a couple of books, including Between the Bridge and the River, and also his memoir, American on Purpose. He's even hosted Shark Week. That's how talented this guy is. And of course, the late night world was changed forever when Craig took over The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson on January 3rd, 2005. He's earned an Emmy nomination, he's of course won that Peabody, and he's set ratings records for the show since then. It's a great day for Canada because he's here, Craig Ferguson.
Hello, Mike. Hello, Canadians. I don't talk about Canada as much as that. I don't know. It's been edited in some kind of pro-Canada way.
Well, first off, thanks for dressing up for the occasion.
I just got here from the airport, so I'm terribly sorry. I'm still wearing my traveling socks.
I like those. Very nice.
Terribly sorry. No, if you're going to the thing tonight, I should be wearing a suit tonight. I'll be dressed up and maybe even wearing different socks. Why would you go after me for not dressing up?
You know, it was an easy.
These people are in
easy
wear.
So talk. What is your history with Canada? Have you spent much time up here?
Well, my people built this country. I don't know. I'm lying. That's not true. This is what I said when I came into Banff, I thought, it's lovely here. This is what Scotland must have looked like when they first built it. It's beautiful. And Scotland, of course, I have relatives in Canada. I thought about coming to live here, but my relatives objected. So I think anyone in Scotland has relatives in Canada. I mean, really, honestly, and certainly in the generation I grew up in, everybody. And John, my dearest and oldest friend over there, John Naismith, is Canadian. He was born in Scotland, but he drank the Canadian Kool-Aid some years back, and is a resident. Toronto, you kind of. That's where you became a citizen, right? That's a Canadian city, so there you are. I've had sex with Canadians. There, how's that? And that's
You know this country intimately. So.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Women too. I've had sex with Canadian women too.
Okay. To clarify, you're equal opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, talk about first moving to the States back in '94, and sort of what brought you to this continent, and how you ended up on a show starring Betty White and Marie Osmond.
Well, that wasn't really the first time I moved here. I had worked in construction in New York City in the 80s, but I was an illegal immigrant then, so I kept quiet about it until I became a citizen and they couldn't kick me out. But I had worked in New York in the 1980s when I was 21. And then I'd never been to Los Angeles until towards the end of my drinking. I went there and I was appalled by it, which is about the only correct perspective I had about at the time. And then in 1992, after I got sober, I thought I'd like to try and see what it would be like to be in Hollywood and in show business. So I went there and I just auditioned. I went to places and auditioned for stuff, and I got the job with Betty White after I think my third or fourth audition here. And Betty's still my friend. She's still in the show. Yeah. She's a very nice person. Well, she is.
And everyone always thinks there's like an ulterior.
I think it's kind of a disease I have. Everybody thinks I'm thinking something dirty all the time. I kind of am, but it shows more. I think that's what it is.
And I think it's acceptable with Betty White. We're all thinking.
Betty's definitely thinking something dirty all the time.
Well, the big break was Drew Carey's show. That sort of was the one that put you in millions and millions of American households.
Yeah, it was. I'm very grateful for that. That came about actually through my Canadian friend John, who stayed with me when I was. You remember this when I was at that audition? I'd been asked to go and audition for the part of the Hispanic photographer in a pilot that Brooke Shields was making called Suddenly Susan, which became a show, which had a Hispanic photographer in it. And they gave me the sides to go to the interview, and John was standing aside, and I said, look, I can't go and audition to be a Hispanic photographer. And he said, what the fuck else are you doing? In that lovely way that Canadians have. So I went, and I did my interview and my audition in my Latino accent, and they laughed. But afterwards said, that was hilarious, but it's not really what we're looking for. Speedy Gonzales versus Braveheart. But the casting director there, a guy called Tony Sepulveda, and he cast all the different Warner Brothers shows. And he said that was, can you do it? We're looking for someone for the Drew Carey show. Can you do an English accent? And I said, yes I can. And he laughed. And then I didn't audition for the show. I met Bruce Helford, who is the show, the co-creator of the show with Drew. And Bruce is a very strange little man. He's a lovely man, Bruce. He's very weird. He looks like a hobbit. And he said, well, come and do a show or two and see how it works. And
that is how he talks.
Like that. He's adorable. He stores food in his pouches. And
just with a little soul patch.
Yeah, with a little soul patch as well. He's very, very nice, very clever man.
he after a couple of episodes, I was only meant to do a couple of episodes. He said, "Would you like to become a cast member?" And I said, "Yes, I would."
You were still doing the Latino accent.
Yeah, I still do it from time to time.
So what kind of doors did that open up? So what opportunities came out of Drew Carey?
Well, I think what it did is it gave me the first and most essential thing it did was that it paid the bills. It was that money, and I was flat broke. So it took that kind of panic away. And then I think what happened is that I got, as I think anyone who worked in or who works in a situation comedy that's controlled by someone else, if you have any kind of creative ambition for yourself, you're going to get frustrated and restless. And I of course did. And so I started reading movie scripts because it was on the Warner Brothers lot. I was reading movie scripts of movies they were making at the time. Movies like, I think, Twister and stuff like that, and, it was around about that era. And I thought, I don't know if I can write, better than this, but I sure as shit can't write any worse. And so I started writing, I had an idea for a movie about a Scottish hairdresser. And, as most people do in their careers. And I started writing, with a friend of mine, I started writing a script called Je m'appelle Crawford, which became the big tease, which Warner Brothers made. And they changed the name of the movie because they thought Americans wouldn't go and see a movie that had Je m'appelle in the title. They also wouldn't go and see a movie that had the big tease in the title either. But that came later. But that movie, because the script from that movie, I actually like the movie as well, but I think the script was very successful in the sense that it was good, and it opened up. I got asked to work on Saving Grace. I got asked to write the script to the movie Saving Grace, and then I got asked by when you write a script in Hollywood, it's been my experience. I'm sure some of you have had this that. When you write it doesn't have to be produced, it just has to be a script that people think has got some kind of merit. You get more work. Yeah. So I got work as a scriptwriter mostly. I was doing, I was firing people on the Drew Carey show for about half an hour a week, and that was paying the bills. And the rest of the time I was writing. And I got a 3-picture deal at Paramount, and I wrote 3 pictures for them, none of which they made, but I think that's fine. And it allowed me to become, I suppose, part of the community. I suppose that's what it allowed me to be visible in that sense.
Were you still doing stand-up at the same time?
No, I actually stopped doing stand-up. I had done stand-up for a long time in the UK. And then I stopped when I came to America because I thought, I don't know how to do it. I don't have enough cultural reference. I think stand-up, you need to be fast on your feet. And not just if an audience is lively, but also in your own head. And it took me, I think, about 10 years to be comfortable with references that I would bring to my frontal lobes immediately to go back and do stand-up. Mm-hmm. So for a long time I avoided it because I thought I wasn't qualified. And I wasn't. You have to be around, I think you have to be around it for a while before you can make it work. I have to anyway.
Yeah.
So that when I got comfortable with that was when I started doing the Late Late Show. I went back out and started doing stand-up again.
So let's jump to the Late Late Show. So talk about that process. How it ended up that you even sort of were on that list, on that short list.
Well, it came about because of really Peter Lassalle, who I'm sure some of you will know. Peter is a legend in the talk show game. Peter was for 27 to 30 years with Johnny Carson, of course, at the Tonight Show. He shepherded David Letterman's transition and worked with David for 5 years at the Late Show in New York. And then, he worked with Jon Stewart. He worked. Everybody wants to work with Peter. And Peter had seen me be a guest on Craig Kilborn's show, who was my predecessor, and he said they were, Craig Kilborn retired to go on to whatever he does now, and I don't think that was his plan, they attested a bunch of different people, and one of the people Peter wanted to see, and this is what he's like to this day. He said, let's take a look at this guy, which was me. And so he brought me in. I was actually working in Canada at the time when I got the call. I was working in Winnipeg, working on a movie called Niagara Motel, which I haven't seen. But I, in the tradition of movies, you shoot a movie in Canada about Niagara Falls, about 1,000 miles from my Niagara Falls. But I was working there, and I got a call, and they said, "Would you like to come and guest host this Late Late Show?" And I was like, "Sure," because what else am I going to do? And I went down and fitted. I think I was after Anna Gasteyer was before me, and I can't remember who was after me. And I did. I went in to do it. Beforehand, I talked to Peter Lassalle, and I said, "Thank you very much for thinking of me. This is really nice, and it should be a lark," is what I said, which I don't really say ever. But I decided that it was an upper class Englishman for that moment, and this should be a lark. And he said, "No, this is not a lark." He said, "If I'm right about you, you're lightning in a bottle." I remember this very specifically. He said, "You're lightning in a bottle. If I'm right about you, you're lightning in a bottle. You're it. If I'm right, you're the guy that we're looking for." And I said, "Okay."
No pressure.
Yeah, and I went away and I thought, poor old man's going to see that. But I think he was right. Because I found it was like finding out that you can knit, having never taken any knitting lessons. I did my first show and I thought, I can do this. I can do this. There's very few things in my life I'm very confident about. I'm not confident really about most things, but I know how to do that. I know how to do it. I know how to talk my way out of trouble. I grew up in Scotland. Talking my way out of trouble is one of the first things I learned. So, talking to a couple of actors,
Right.
it's all right.
What was Letterman's input in all this?
Zero. David works on his show and does that. What he did do is he provided me with an environment, this is David personally, that was protected. Now, we all work in this business, I presume, and you know how impatient this business is for gratification. You must succeed, and you must succeed right now or you're cancelled. But David's very powerful. And the deal that he had with the time slot was that I'm putting whatever I want in there, and if it fails, okay. And of course I did, and then didn't. And that combined with the relationship I had previously with Les Moonves, it created a very kind of a protected environment where I could find out, I could do different things. I could kind of take my time and kind of stumble and not be cancelled right away.
Yeah, Leslie was still running Warner Brothers when you
But
started.
he was running Warner Brothers when I was there, so I knew him. I kind of figured that was my ace in the hole. That I knew him, but apparently lots of people know Les, so it wasn't my ace in the hole at all. But he and David provided that environment, and still do.
What was Moonvest's line to you when you got the gig? And feel free to do your best Les Moonves impersonation.
Well, I wouldn't dream of attempting that. I think he just said, "Don't fuck up." That's kind of what Les would say.
Yeah.
Don't fuck up. And then went to conquer Portugal or something. Whatever he did next, like take over the NFL or whatever he's doing at the moment.
Exactly. World domination. Mm-hmm. So, one of the fun things on the show is well, first off, let's talk about your interviews, because, I love the fact that every interview you start off by ripping up those index cards.
Yeah, that's just a kind of protest. That's a kind of, it's a kind of like, I'm not going to do what your publicist told you I was going to do.
Uh-huh.
That's what it started as. And what it became is, now it's just some stupid OCD thing, I suppose, but
It's tradition now.
Right, I just do it. But they, the researchers, the segment producers make them. They're not props.
Yeah,
they're really done, and they still do them, and I rip them up.
Do you read them before the interview starts?
No.
Or?
Look, the way I see it is this. And this is an argument I've had with my own publicist, who I like very much, but this idea that, so I've got, movie star A is going to be on the show. Movie star A wants you to see their movie before they come on the show. And I'm like, no. And they're like, you've got to, that's disrespectful. I'm like, no, it's not disrespectful, it's stupid. If I'm going to ask somebody what the movie's about, I don't want to know what the movie's about, so that when they tell me, I'll really be interested. As opposed to, doing some kind of weird, pretend, made up, badly rehearsed conversation with someone who doesn't care for me. I mean, if I wanted that, I'd have stayed with my first wife. But that's kind of what I feel about it. That if it's a real conversation. Look, it's not always I don't do anything. I know who these people are.
Yeah.
And I like, you don't invite, Bishop Desmond Tutu on your show and say, oh, so what do, Bishop?
No, I hear you're a bishop.
Yeah, I hear you're a bishop. How's that going? What's it like in the bishop world? That.
Tutu, that's a funny last name.
Yeah. Did people kid you in school about that? So what you do is you do the appropriate amount, or what I like to do is do the appropriate amount of research. That doesn't mean Google somebody. I mean a little more than that. When it's warranted, if it's a movie star that I know who it is, then they turn up, I know their name, it's fine.
Yeah.
I've seen the ads for the movie, I've probably seen the trailer. I haven't seen the movie though.
Are there stars that fear doing your show because it's such a freewheeling conversation?
Yes.
Yeah? Anyone?
No, I'm not saying that, they might change their mind. But yes, there are people who are like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And on the flip side, you have stars who love coming on because they love doing this.
Yeah, there are people who enjoy it. There are, there are big stars who seem to thrive in that environment. Who I think sometimes if they're very big stars, like Tom Hanks has a great time on the show because he doesn't give a shit. He's Tom Hanks.
Right.
Like when appears in my show goes badly, his career's screwed up. That's not going to happen. So he's fine. And it's like people who are relaxed about their position. Whether they're, anarchic personalities, or so therefore they don't really care, or they're wonderfully successful, so they don't really care, or their life is in the shitter, so they don't really care. The common denominator is they have to not really care.
Well, you find a lot of comedy in things going wrong anyway. I mean, that's some of the best moments are when the power goes out, or when things don't go quite as scripted.
I think that's out of necessity. I mean, the alternative is if the power goes out in the studio, I could stop tape and then wait until it's fixed. But then I'd be there for hours. I don't want to hang around TV City for hours. I want to do my job and leave. So if the power goes out, I'll keep going unless they stop me. Also, I had I had done stand-up and I had done theatre in Scotland. And that stuff happens in live theatre. It happens all the time. So you keep going. Just keep going. Like I'm going to do now. I'll keep going until you ask me something.
All right. We're doing the little stare-off thing. All right, so let's talk about Jeff Peterson.
Yeah.
I was expecting an applause. Jeff Peterson.
Oh no, he's a very divisive figure.
I love Jeff Peterson.
Well, that's some people do.
Yeah. He's so wrong, but yet he's so right. Talk about the evolution of this and then how you ended up with a skeletal robotic sidekick.
Well, Jeff Peterson is emblematic of my failure as a late night talk show host. Because what I wanted to do was, as a protest, have a robot that would do, the sidekick, pat answers would do the exact, this is how robotic it is, this is how passe, this is ridiculous. My original sidekick at the very beginning was a potato, but you probably weren't watching the show at that point. No one was, although the potato demographic went through the roof. But I had seen the movie Ghost Rider, which I enjoyed very much. I think Nicolas Cage has never made a bad movie. I occasionally people laugh at that, but I really believe that. Every time Nicolas Cage is in a movie, I'm like, I'm good here.
No, they just think
movie's done.
They think you're thinking dirty thoughts about me.
No, not at all. I just like, oh, look, it's the more particular. His skull goes on fire. This is entertainment. And the skeleton in that, you know, when he turns into a skeleton with his head on fire, I talked about it on the show that I liked it. And then a prop guy brought out a skeleton with a bit of paper on it, and we pretended it was on fire. And then it kind of combined with the idea of the robotic sidekick. Then what happened is that Grant Imahara from Mythbusters said that if I got him 100,000 followers on Twitter, that he would build an actual working robot for me. So, I got on Twitter and we got it in like half an hour. And he was like, I wish I'd asked for more. And like everybody in show business always does. And he built the robot. And then we bought it, and then initially I did the voice, and the robot would say, "You're the man, Craig, that's a great joke," and whatever it was. And then Josh Robert Thompson, who is the guy who operates and voices Jeff Peterson, started doing little bits of work. He started doing the voice and then doing the voice live, and then he became really, really good. And then the whole idea of me deconstructing the sidekick failed because he became a really good fucking sidekick. And it all went horribly wrong, but it worked out. So, and that's really it. Josh, that robot makes me laugh like really nobody else.
Well, there are YouTube clips of you just,
that's a funny robot skeleton.
Well, Josh also does a great Morgan Freeman.
He does a great Morgan Freeman. He does a great, but his voices are amazing. What he can do is incredible. He's far more talented than the job of voice okay robot skeleton would suggest.
Well, the other character who's sort of become a cult figure in his own right is Secretary.
Yeah, that's my horse. Yeah. Yes, there's your applause. That's an interesting thing, that horse, because that's purely a British thing. That's from pantomime in Britain. And I saw the costume lying around somewhere, and then we used it, and then we just kept using it. But the two guys that work in the horse, they're production assistants at the show, and it really frustrates me, but at the same time I love it that when the horse goes places to do things, we send those guys, and then they're complaining about how much money it costs. I'm like, well, can't we just send the costume and then hire people? And they're like, but you won't get the same effect. Okay. But we actually said, these guys have been to Paris and Scotland, they've been to New York, they've been to the Super Bowl, and they travel, like millionaires.
Yeah, no, I love that you always use it as an establishing shot wherever you go. There's Secretariat.
I feel more comfortable when I see that horse.
Yeah.
Seeing that horse reminds me of, Billy Connolly tells a story about when he got his nipples pierced on his 50th birthday. And as this guy pierced his second nipple, he said, "There you are. One more of us, one less of them." And I think the horse reminds me of that. When I see the horse running around, I think, I'm not one of them.
Why is the horse not here in Banff?
Maybe he is. He's not. Or
Is that?
no.
Talk about speaking of animals and puppets. Talk about the hand puppets.
Yeah!
Wow. Who's the head puppet fan out here?
Yeah.
I just said that. All right, fan.
Yeah, well, there you go. I like them fine. I like the head puppets. They're around, but I had to keep putting them on and taking them off. And when I went to the truth is, when I went to the new studio about a year ago, the shot became very difficult with the hand puppets, so I just stopped using them so much.
Yeah.
But occasionally I'll still use them. It's been a while.
Yeah. It's how's the new studio?
It's alright. It's better than the TV studio. It's better than the last one. The last one was terrible.
Yeah. Well, the last one was very small. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful. It was really a closet. It was really a terrible place. I miss it.
Well, there's always an element of you have to be a little miserable to be funny, right? Do you subscribe?
Oh, I am the Saudi Arabia of unhappiness. I have so many reserves of misery that you wouldn't understand.
I would fear, probably.
Yeah. I actually think that's part of the way why I think I connect a little bit with Canadians. I think they understand grinding misery. The upbeat kind of with a note.
Yeah. You're so nice here, though.
Yeah. I know. Everybody's really nice. It's like Scotland. Scotland has a massive influence here. I can feel it. Everyone's really nice.
Yeah.
The Canadians know what I'm talking about.
I love your habit. Speaking of sort of being surrounded by a little bit of misery of going to graveyards when you go on these trips.
I like graveyards.
And the best part is you take the hottest women to the graveyards.
Yeah, because they might get scared.
And they usually do.
Yeah, no, I think graveyards are. I like them because they bring on a certain reflection. And you're kind of forced into thinking a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps. And plus, the way you shoot in a graveyard, everybody has to stay out of the way, and so you don't get publicists and producers and people who are all very necessary. But when it starts to work, I don't want it to be too close.
Yeah.
So graveyards keep everybody away.
And that way you have some just kind of freewheeling conversations.
Yeah, I mean, it's also if you go to a town. Like we did it in Glasgow, we did it in New Orleans. If you go to towns like that have, dark history or just history, then graveyards are interesting.
Yeah.
That's who lived there.
Yeah. No, and then you took Mila Kunis to the graveyard in
Take
Scotland.
Mila Kunis anywhere she wants to go.
She's one of your favorites. So talk about that. These conversations that you have with someone like that, where it's obviously not scripted. There's no preparation. You kind of just go on a walk, and that's something we just don't see much on TV. It's.
Well, you can. All you have to do is put it on. Yeah, you can see it. It's not hard.
Yeah.
What's hard is, I think, if you overthink it. It's not rocket science. It's people talking, and sometimes it'll work, and sometimes it won't because the chemistry of the people involved. It's not necessary for it to work all the time. I think maybe, if I refer back to what you said earlier, what did Dave do? I think that maybe that's what, that situation provided for me. I didn't feel like I had to throw a knockout punch every time I threw one. I didn't have to. Not every show, not every conversation had to be great. So you could just talk. You could actually just find out if you liked someone or you didn't. And there's been plenty of people on the show I've thought, what an awful person. But there've been an equal or maybe a greater amount of people that I've thought, wow, I would not have thought that.
Yeah.
My preconceptions are completely wrong. And I have to say, a lot of the time it's to do with beautiful women. So that's my problem, really. But, women who have been perceived in the media one way and then are different to that. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating because I don't think of myself as a stupid person. And I think about myself, but but I fall for a lot of rubbish.
Well, there's talk about YouTube again. If you go on YouTube, someone has now collected 16 different volumes of just clips of you with great women guests.
Got to fill your days.
And I've watched all 16.
Yeah.
That was one night where I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
It was great, though. It was good. So another thing that's sort of a hallmark of you as a host, and you're looking at me like...
I just think the idea of watching another man talk to beautiful women for hours and hours at a time seems like an odd way to pass a sleepless night. Seriously, we all, man. I love all the people. I'm good.
We all have our different ways. It's what's interesting about you also as a host is when real life tragedy sort of happens in the real world, every host sort of feels like they need to go on. They can't brush under the rug. They have to mention it. They have to say something. There are some hosts you feel like they're pained they don't want to mention it. They feel like they shouldn't, but they do because they know they have to. But you you go out there and you no teleprompter, no script. You just sort of speak.
Well, that's the only difference for me and them, because everything else I feel I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to deal with it.
Sure.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't like talking about it. Stuff like it doesn't feel like it's my job. I'm not a newsman. I'm not a journalist. I'm not that. But I do feel that I am participating in whatever we're doing when we're sucking air. I'm part of the world. I'm a human being, and when things affect you and you don't have a script, then what are you going to do? You're going to tell the truth. So that's what you do. And I don't. There are times when I'll talk about it, and there are times when things happen that I just think either I don't have a show that night, or I don't. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And then there are times when I just can't not. And sometimes when a tragedy or big news events happen to the people in an area, and I don't talk about it, they get angry with me. I understand that, but I can't do it every time.
Sure.
I can only do it when I can't not do it, if you know what I mean. That's it.
Yeah, we'll talk. I mean, most recently Boston, and that was a clip that a lot of people were talking about because you were pretty eloquent and sort of your frustration with what happened there. So talk about that and
well,
why you decided to do that.
I didn't. It sounds like when you hear about something like Boston happening, I think it was the nature of the event, because at the same time I remember there was a terrible tragedy in Texas at the same time, and it was, and I didn't talk about that, but Boston was. It felt like I'd seen it unfold, and I have family in Boston, and it just made no sense, and I couldn't not talk about it. It was the idea of voicing my frustration with any particular thing, whether it's if the despicable nature of some individuals and whatever twisted logic they have to justify doing stuff like that, or if it's my annoyance at a light bulb not working in the studio, I will continue to vocalize my discomfort until CBS pulls me off the air. This is my job. At least that's what I think my job is. I don't read jokes off of cue cards. I don't do that. So there's no jokes for me to read. So what am I going to do?
Yeah. Well, you say you're not a journalist, but you got a Peabody for your Tutu interview.
Yeah, but yeah, but it doesn't mean that I'm not curious. Look, you can't have Desmond Tutu on your show and go, "There's the horse, Desmond. Look at the horse." He's a man who has dedicated his life, and it's an enormous life and a huge story. That to avoid it would be absurd. To minimize it would be rude. And would be an act of self-robbery, because this is an enormous world figure that I want to talk to.
Yeah.
And he wanted to talk to me. But what he did do, in the course of talking to him, he said something which actually really changed the gears on the show in the past few years, which was, he said, "You are crazy." That's what he said to me. I said, "You've met a lot of crazy people. There's a couple of very bad crazy people that he's talked to and looked right in the eye." And he said, "But yes, you're the kind of crazy that we need. So you must be as crazy as you want." And so I am.
Tutu said it was okay.
Bishop Desmond fucking Tutu. So if they hold me up in front of the headmaster and the headmaster says, "You, Ferguson, you're behaving crazy," I'll go, "Talk to Bishop Desmond Tutu." Because he told me it was all right.
Yeah. You mentioned some other guests have surprised you. Anyone in particular who you weren't sure was going to be a great guest, but ended up you really had a great time with?
Yeah, I think that happens quite a lot, to be
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, I mean, I think I hate to single it out. It's hard to single it out because you do one and then, an hour or two later I'll say, oh, why didn't I say that? But it happens a lot. It happens a lot. That's what I'm looking for when I talk to someone. I want them to open up. And so, and most of the time, I think most of the time people do. There's a spark or something. Whether it's fun or anger, that's okay. Whatever it is.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: if say Moonvest calls you up and says, "Great, we found an extra, couple $1 million. Money's no object. You can do whatever you want to do with your show."
You think that CBS don't have millions and millions of dollars? Like they find it? They already have it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
But earmarked for you.
All right.
$1 billion earmarked for you. Basically, money's no object. You can do whatever show you want to do. What would you do differently? Would you add anything? Would you?
Yeah, of course I would. I'd just be careful. I'd just be careful what I was adding. I would add things that were appropriate. Look, if money was no object, would I do a show from the moon? Yeah, I'll try it. But I don't, I wouldn't just throw money at it to make it, look like everything else. I don't need to do that.
Yeah,
I'm all right.
One of the things that you've also said is that you find the whole idea of the late night wars pretty ridiculous.
Don't you?
It's what pays my bills. So I got to write about something, and apparently there's been a lot of that to write about in the past couple of years.
I haven't noticed.
You've managed to stay clear of all that, though. You don't play in that.
Well, I'm aware of it. I don't see myself kind of as part of that. I don't. It was that Groucho Marx line, as I don't care to be a member of a club that would have me as a member.
Yeah.
I don't see that as being my thing.
Yeah.
I do a late night show, because it's on late at night. But what other people decide to call it is outside of my control anyway. So I do what I do in the space that I have. Do I have ambitions for another time slot? Because you can ask me that if you want. I don't care is the answer.
Craig, do you have ambitions for
No,
another time slot?
I don't care. I personally think that the business of television is changing so much and so rapidly that time slots will become a ludicrous idea. It'll become like remembering a telephone number. Now, who the fuck remembers a telephone number now?
Right.
You program it in, you forget it. And that's, I think, where television is going to go at some point. But it doesn't matter to me personally, because I'll do what I do no matter what time you watch it. Like when you watched all that YouTube stuff, which is probably illegal.
It probably is.
You watched it all through the night, which is not when I'm broadcast. So you were watching me at a time that's not. When I do stand-up shows, anyone in my audience under the age of 40 doesn't watch the show when it was out. They watch it at other times.
Yeah. Is that? Are you fine with that? Is it kind of?
I think for legal reasons, I'm probably outraged by it.
As long as it's safe and legal.
I don't care. It's not my job. I'm not the policeman. I'm the dancing clown. I don't decide in this. I have my own things that I care about. The infrastructure of television is not one of them.
What do you make of social media? What do you make of Twitter, interacting with fans, and sort of how close now you can be with your viewers?
It's okay. It's okay. I'm cautious about it because I think that for most people, they understand what it is. I think that it's kind of like. But for someone who thinks like me, if I have I think a stand-up comedian's mind. So if I go and look at a room full of people, what I'm looking for is the person who hates me. And social media is the same. I'm looking for trouble. And I'm tired. I don't want to hear your fucking opinion. I either like it or don't like it. You watch. There's so many things you can watch. Do we need to have a discussion about it? If you don't like me, don't watch me. No, it's okay. I'm cool.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to get personal. But you see, it isn't. I think mostly. I think most people understand it. I think most people in this room probably understand social media much better than me, but I don't really understand it because I'm looking for. I'll scroll through my Twitter feed, thousands of people who, oh, you're great, you're rock, you're I want to marry you, I love you. And then I find the guy, you fucking suck, and I'm like, and then I'm looking him up, and I'm googling him, and I'm sweating and thinking about what I'm going to do to this son of a bitch. And I don't want to do that anymore. You know? So whilst I don't think in and of itself it's bad, it's hard for me to use it properly.
Sure. Well, let's get a little social right now. I think we've got time for a couple of questions.
Look, that was like Andy Williams right there. That was so.
It's all about the same.
Yes,
Yes, sir. The fan of the puppets.
Hi, I've got a couple of questions for you. Sure. Basically the same question.
Okay.
I read your autobiography, and I found it very interesting. And there's the two questions are basically that you're an amazing conversationalist on TV, and one of the funny things about it, of course, about Americans is that they're perceived as so loud abroad, but really we kind of value the silent type, and it's amazing to me to see you pulling great conversations out of people. And the other part about it is that, do you think that you're being an immigrant and being, but simultaneously so pro-America, I mean, the tattoo and everything, does that allow you to sort of state a thing of being sort of self-critical of America when you want to be? And Americans don't like other people criticizing them, and you get away with it in a way that I've never seen anybody on TV get away with before. And I'm just wondering if you think about walking that line, or is it just something you do instinctively?
I'm aware of the audience. I'd be lying if I told you that I wasn't. But America, to me, is not. It's not possible to generalize it. It's far too complex. This giant, multicultural, heaving, crazy, wonderful place. I can't say Americans and be done. It's not possible. What I try and do is I try and be respectful, but at the same time not to lie. So I get uncomfortable with jingoism, but at the same time I'm not going to hide if I feel good about something. Because jingoism and cynicism take it too far. The ends of the spectrum. So I kind of try and be careful. I suppose that's it. But that's probably more than I've ever thought about it ever in my life. But just to try and honestly answer your question, I don't really know.
All right, time for another one. Right front row.
Greg, I loved your interview with Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Can you talk about how you build chemistry with Julia and other guests on the show?
Well, Julia is a very attractive, funny woman, so I don't really have to do much. I don't know if you know this about me, but I really like attractive, funny women. So it's very easy for me to talk to them. I see them, they start talking, I'm like, yeah. It's just great. It's just not difficult. I mean, some attractive, funny women, I'm sure I creep them out. But she doesn't seem in any way intimidated by me, and I don't think she is. She's a lovely woman and very funny.
I think he's the guy who put the videos up that I watch.
Yeah.
Question back here.
Sir, it's not really a question, but just thought you should know I'm from Banff, and it was in 1883 that two Scots climbed into a stinky cave and found hot springs here, and that was the start of Banff and the whole Canadian Banff National Park System. So thank you.
If you know anything about me, I'll always find a stinky cave.
Question right here. Will you be visiting the
not a question. I'm Karen Sorensen. I'm the mayor of Banff.
Hey, Your Honor.
Welcome.
Can you take him to the Stinky Caves?
Well,
She can, Your Honor. Yes,
because he likes funny women.
she can. That's like women.
Just to add to Jeff's comment, Banff was actually named for Banffshire, Scotland.
I know.
Yeah, because of the way our two rivers are like the way your two rivers. So, but anyway, thank you very much for being here. We're thrilled that you're in our community. We're thrilled you're all in our community.
Thank you. You know, I have to say, only in Canada would the mayor sit 2 rows back. Well, the mayor's here.
Question back here.
Who are your comic influences? I mean, you just have such an eclectic style. Where did you grow up? What did you watch when you grew up? What were the things that really sort of resonated with you from a comedic standpoint?
I think, for me, anything that was absurd and warm. So the comedy that of Laurel and Hardy. I used to watch that stuff on TV when I was a kid. I loved Stan Laurel so much, and the Chaplin things that they used to have on Scottish television when I was a kid, and then the Pythons, because it was so fucking mad and different, and the Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, because and Peter Cook actually became a very I became quite close with Peter, and he was a mentor of sorts to me, and he had such warmth and such absurdity that's the kind of stuff I like. So I'm hoping that's the kind of stuff I do. That is aspirational for me. The absurd stuff, but I don't think I'm comfortable being just that. So I don't know, but definitely that's what I watched. Is the absurd and crazy people who were all, with the exception of Stan Laurel, I guess, and Charles Chaplin, but the later ones were all from a very kind of privileged class. So it seemed like very unattainable to me.
A little add-on to that. You're a drummer. Johnny Carson was a drummer. There seems to be something around the drums and the timing that has to do with great late-night comedians. Can you talk a little bit about that as well, too?
I think that's an absurd connection.
And so I just wanted to say thank you for coming.
Let's talk about Sir Peter Ustinov real quick, since it's obviously the award that you've been given, and you've met him before. And
I did meet Sir Peter Ustinov once. It's a fascinating story, and here's how it goes. I was a fan of Sir Peter Ustinov, and my mother loved him. And she might have. I don't know if they ever went to the cave, but they.
Stinky Cave?
Yeah, I just said the cave. I think saying Stinky Cave was too much, but then you said it, and now it's out.
I'm your sidekick.
Yeah, all right. The story is I was staying at the Caledonian Hotel in Edinburgh when I was working there a long time ago, 20 years ago maybe, and I went into breakfast one morning, and Sir Peter Ustinov was in the breakfast area having his breakfast, and I saw him, and I said, Sir Peter Ustinov. So I said, good morning. And he said, good morning, try the bacon. And I said, okay. And that was me and Sir Peter.
Thanks.
And here we are, full circle. Back in the land of bacon.
Yes. We have another question back there.
Can I ask you about the uncomfortable silence and the harmonica and where that stuff came from?
That's really born out of desperation, I think. Uncomfortable silences I've had in my life, like now. The harmonica thing was just something lying on the desk. I can't play the harmonica, but if you leave something around, if I'm around something long enough, I'm going to blow it. Made myself laugh right there. And then But you know, Stephen Colbert said this very well about these shows. You do a show every night, you're going to use everything you have. Everything. You know, you're on TV every night. You're going to do everything and more. Anything you can get your hands on. Harmonicas, skeletons. There's a horse costume. Have it run up and down. You know, anything. You do anything because the beast has to be fed every night. Every night. You know, and so you just keep going. That's why I think I started with that.
I want to do an awkward pause right now.
Okay.
But I won't.
You could
I'll
do
say
it, could you? You could
I
do
could.
it.
I could not do it.
Yeah.
I want to be invited back next year, so I got to do this. I think we have time for one more question right here.
Hi, Craig.
Hey.
Given your desire to write screenplays in the past, now that you've been on the late night show for so many years, do you still have that desire?
Yeah, I still do it. I've written a screenplay which, all being well, will go into production in the last quarter of this year. It's a movie called Last Man Out, based on a book called The Ghost of Belfast by Stuart Neville, an Irish writer. And it's a very, very dark story of murder and revenge set in Northern Ireland. It's not a comedy. It's great fun to write. I was like, where's the joke? There is no joke.
So they're giving me the wrap-up sign. So
Really, I usually ignore that. Depends what you want. What are they going to do?
Exactly.
What's he going to do? I mean, really, if you want to keep going, we'll keep going. I got nowhere to be.
I know where to be. What are we doing here? What time here in Banff, Craig?
I don't know. Hang out. See if I can find that cave you guys I'm here to do this and to accept the award, which I'm very I'm very I think I can connect with Canadians in this respect that the idea of accepting an award makes me feel very uncomfortable, but I'm trying very hard to not be uncomfortable about it, and I am very grateful about it, but I'm like, a part of me in my head, a big part of it in my head is like, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? A comedy award for you. Rubbish.
That's going to look nice next to your Peabody, though.
Oh, Peabody Award, is it? It's funny that when I go to the Peabody Award, all I can think of is, that's not for me, that's for Desmond Tutu. Which of course it was.
You know what? It could have gone either way, though. It was all about that interview, so.
Yeah, I think so. But I liked him. He's very clever.
Well, we're
and funny.
Really? Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, we're eating into Julie Louis-Dreyfus's time.
Oh, is she coming out?
She is coming out,
huh?
which is why you guys. But we have to ask you guys to stick around. Don't go anywhere. It's a doubleheader right now. So thank you very much to Craig Ferguson.